That house smelled of dampness, of rotten wood, of neglect. The windows were broken, the roof collapsed in parts, the walls peeling and sad, as if they had absorbed all the screams and silences of our family for decades. And yet, I went in. I crossed the threshold like someone returning to a crime scene, knowing that the traces are still there. No one else wanted to return. My siblings were in other cities. My mother was living with her new partner. My father was no longer there, and the house was left alone. But I couldn't let her die. It wasn't just concrete, it was childhood. It was the kitchen where my grandmother cooked in silence. It was the room where I learned to read, to hide, to cry without making a sound. It was the room where, even though everything was broken, we once sat together. I decided to stay, not because it was practical, not because it was profitable, but because nobody else would do it. And if I didn't do it, that story would be lost forever. The neighbors were giving me strange looks. Are you going to fix all this on your own? Yeah, me alone. I started by cleaning. Then came the roof, the pipes, the cables, 1 quarter at a time, 1 slot per week. With every nail, with every paintbrush, with every sack of rubble, I felt I was rebuilding more than just a house. I was rebuilding a part of myself that, for years, I was made to believe was worthless. And although it hurt, it also healed. Because starting over hurts. But being left with nothing hurts more. Nobody was there when I learned to use an angle grinder without hurting myself. Nobody helped me when the dampness in the bathroom made me get bronchitis twice that winter. Nobody brought me coffee when I stayed up until dawn sanding doors, with my hands cracked and my back in knots. But everyone knew how to give their opinion. From afar, of course. How brave you are, sister. I couldn't, but I admire you. How the house must be turning out beautifully. As if it were a pretty craft project. As if I were painting a mural and not rebuilding the remains of a broken family. I sold my car to pay for materials. I quit a job because I couldn't keep to the schedule while covered in dust and paint from head to toe. I started giving private lessons via Zoom from a corner that hadn't yet collapsed, with a lamp hanging over my head, pretending that everything was fine. And each time I finished a part, a painted room, a repaired section of pipe, a restored door, I would take a deep breath and say to myself, 1 step closer. We're almost there. But something was always missing. Because rebuilding isn't just physical. It's emotional. It is remembering what was lost. It's about facing the inner voices that ask you, so that? Why you? It's worth it? Yeah, it was worth it. Not because of them. For me. Because I needed to prove to myself that I could create something solid, even though they would never see me as someone reliable. Every wall erected was a message, even if nobody was there to read it. It was almost mathematical. As soon as the house began to resemble a home, with clean walls, new furniture, plants in the entrance, they began to appear. First, casual messages. Wow, I saw the photos you uploaded. Everything turned out great. Can I come in and see how the house is doing? It's been so long since I visited. Then, visits. Smiles, hugs, looks of fake nostalgia. Your kitchen looks great. And that bathroom? It doesn't even look like the same house. We should have a family meal here, like in the old days. As if they had been there. As if they had held up a single tile. I received them, out of respect. Because of something I still found hard to let go of. The hope that, one day, they would value my effort without disguising it as mere courtesy. But they didn't. They drank coffee, wandered around the rooms, talked about changes, about possible improvements. They gave opinions as if they knew what they were talking about. One afternoon, I overheard one of my brothers say to his wife, "Here we could build the barbecue area that Dad always wanted. Now that everything is set up, it would be easy." He said it as if he owned the place, as if the hands that sanded each board had been invisible. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling I had installed myself, thinking about every night I doubted whether I was doing the right thing. And for the first time, an idea lodged in my throat like a splinter. What if they were just waiting, expecting me to do all the work, hoping that the house would become an asset, so they could reappear as legitimate heirs? And me, once again, the useful idiot. But this time, something inside me no longer remained silent. A conversation interrupted upon entering the kitchen, a document on the table that disappeared when I asked, a random comment from my younger sister. "Well, you're not going to keep everything here, are you?" Small things, small cracks. But for someone who single-handedly rebuilt an entire house, a crack is not a coincidence. It's a warning. I started to pay more attention. I heard what wasn't being said, looks that were averted, sudden changes of subject when mentioning accounts, expenses, deeds. Until one afternoon, I found an open envelope on my father's desk, a draft will, her handwriting, his signature, and in the details, names that did not include mine. Names that divided the house, the land, the belongings, among everyone, except me. I who lived there. I who had rebuilt every inch. I who had put in my savings, my back, my tears. Nothing. I saved the document again. I sat down on the porch, and for the first time in that whole story, I didn't cry. I felt rage, cold, restrained, concrete, because it wasn't a mistake. It was a decision, and what hurt wasn't the inheritance. It was the omission, the deliberate act of erasing me, as if my role had been to build the house, for them to inherit, as if I didn't matter, as if it had always been written in pencil, to be erased when it was no longer useful to them. But what they didn't know is that this time, I wasn't going to stay silent. The day arrived with a mixture of tension and hypocritical ceremony. We met in an office with gray walls, filled with the smell of old paper and cheap disinfectant. The lawyer, with a neutral expression, opened a thick folder and began to read without looking up. I already knew what was coming, but hearing it out loud was something else entirely. Legacy of the family property, divided equally among the children Juan, Mariana, and Federico. Silence. Silence filled with racing pulses, held breaths, and averted glances. I was there, entire, breathing, and yet, invisible. My name did not appear. It's a clause, not a single line of reconnaissance, not even a symbolic mention. Nothing. I felt a heat rise from my stomach to the back of my neck, as if my body wanted to scream from within, but the voice wouldn't come out. I stayed still, while the others nodded, some feigning surprise, others clearly satisfied. Nobody said anything. None of them looked in my direction, as if that would make it easier to ignore me, as if silence justified betrayal. The lawyer closed the folder and said in a friendly tone, "Any questions or comments?" I just said, "No," and I left, without looking back, because I knew that if I stayed one more minute I was going to scream, and I didn't want to give them my anger. I wanted to stay there, transform it, make it something more, because that will not only excluded me from a property, he expelled me, again, from a story that I helped to sustain, and this time, I wasn't going to ask permission to leave. That night, I confronted them, not for material reasons, because of its symbolic value, for the dignity that had been ripped from me with ink and signatures. I gathered my siblings in the room I had painted myself, in the armchair I had bought myself, under the lamp I had hung with my own hands. I looked at them one by one, and I asked, "Because?" My brother Juan looked away. Mariana feigned surprise. Federico muttered something like, "We didn't know anything." "Didn't they know?" I repeated. "Really?" "Dad made his decisions," Mariana said. "We didn't get involved. And you didn't think to say anything to me? Didn't it occur to you that maybe, just maybe, I deserved at least to be mentioned?" No one answered. Cowardice was a heavy shadow in that room. They used my work, my effort. They benefited from the place I built. And when it came time to divide, they turned me off like a lamp. Silence. I don't want them to give me anything. I don't want to sign any papers. I want to know what kind of people sit down to share bread at a table they didn't set. Silence. I saw them for who they were. Passive accomplices. Heirs to a silent injustice that they chose not to see because it suited them. I got up. They're not going to get me out of this house. Not now. Not like this. But that night I understood something deeper. They didn't get me out. I had already left a long time ago. Except he hadn't accepted it yet. And now, finally, he was doing it. I sat alone in the courtyard, the same one I cleaned with my own hands, where I planted jasmine and lavender so that the air wouldn't smell of ruin. I took a deep breath, and for the first time in months, I cried without anger. I cried from exhaustion, resignedly, with such brutal clarity that it hurt. I remembered everything I had done for that house. Every call to electricians who never came. Every rainy day with leaks. Every night he slept on an old mattress while he repaired the rooms. I remembered the birthdays alone. Christmas with an eco-friendly twist. The times I wished someone, just one, would come and say, "Thank you. What you're doing is worthwhile." It never happened. And now she understood why it hurt so much not to appear in that will. It wasn't about material things. It was because I was never seen. Not before. Not even now. And that, I wasn't going to allow it anymore. I promised myself something simple. That this would be the last time I sacrificed myself for people who only knew how to receive. That house, the one I built like someone constructing an altar with the remains of a broken family, was not going to consume me anymore. I realized I wanted something more, a place of their own, where my effort would not be invisible, where I wouldn't have to fight for a space I built with blood and dust. I decided to stop, not to fight, instead of begging for validation, no to love, instead of persisting where there is no response. Because rebuilding also means knowing when to stop supporting. And I wasn't going to hold on any longer. One morning early, without warning, I started packing. That's drama. No goodbyes, only with determination. I kept the bare minimum. My books, some photos, a couple of items that were actually mine. The rest, let it stay. Let it all crumble. Or that they enjoy it. I don't mind. Because I understood that I don't need to claim what I already gave. What I gave with my body, with my soul, with the years. They will never give it back to me. And they can't take it away from me either. Because it's not on the walls. It's in me. I closed the door calmly, with the dignity of someone who no longer needs to explain themselves. I walked away slowly, feeling each step as an act of self-justice. Behind me was a beautiful house, yes, but full of moral cracks that no one wanted to see. A house that failed to protect the one who sustained it. A family that confused love with utility. And I don't fit in there anymore. I am not a martyr. I am not a victim. I am a woman who learned to build with her hands. And now I am ready to rebuild myself from within. I don't know where I'm going, but I know I'm not coming back. And that is enough. For years, I was made to believe that value lay in what I could do for others. How long could I endure it? As soon as I could deliver without complaining. And I did it. Lo di todo. I repaired a house. I held up a structure. I was the pillar everyone used to lean on, without ever wondering if I needed support too. But I understood something too late. And with anger, being strong doesn't mean being disposable. And when silence weighs more than recognition, it's time to speak. I don't want wills anymore. I don't want property. I don't want untimely recognition. I want peace. And peace sometimes begins with a door locked from the inside, and an exit without looking back. If this story resonates with you, if you've ever felt like you're only sought out when it's already too late, comment below. I also deserve to be seen. And tell me, where are you listening from? And what time is it there? Because perhaps, among so many ignored voices, yours also deserves to be heard.